Guys. Hi. First of all, Jess, that was amazing. I ran 10 years ago, I was running a technology talk show. It was really the first one. Now there's quite a few. But Jess, I had on 10 years ago, and you're so impressive. And that was amazing. I'm sure everyone can attest. Can we give her another round of applause? That was amazing. So I'm Jessie Draper. I run Halogen Ventures. We invest in early stage female-founded consumer technologies. There has to be a female on the founding team. We have about 55 portfolio companies. We're on our second fund. A couple of them we have up here today. And I would love to first just have everyone introduce themselves so you know what ballers are up here right now. With that, Katie, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Katie Warner-Johnson. I'm CEO and co-founder of Carbon 38. We're the premier e-commerce destination for performance fashion. So we source the best designers in activewear and performance fashion across the world. We also collaborate with runway designers, and we design and manufacture our own label as well.
I'm Joanna McFarland. I'm the co-founder and CEO of HopSkipDrive. We are a ride service for kids, so we help schools and families get kids where they need to go safely and dependably. And we operate in 8 states plus DC. We're in 13 markets.
My name is Shilla Kim Parker. I'm CEO and co-founder of Thrilling. We partner with vintage boutiques across the country and help them go online. More vintage boutiques in the US than Starbucks and McDonald's combined. Mostly women run, mostly the sole breadwinners of their household. We're driven by lessening our environmental impact of the clothing industry and partnering with these badass women. That's what we do.
Hi, I'm Pooneh Mohajer. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a brand called Tokidoki. Tokidoki is a pop culture lifestyle brand based on my business partner's artwork. We're global and growing. We're celebrating 15 years this year. It's my 3rd business, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
Right. She also created hard candy for all the women out there.
Well, my sister and I co-founded Hard Candy. My sister created the product, and back in the day, back in the 90s, we revolutionized the nail enamel industry on a massive scale.
Sold it to LVMH.
That was exciting. We sold to LVMH.
I'm like, brag about yourselves, guys. We just heard all about how women aren't telling everybody how awesome they are and being confident. And I love, I was going to start this off in on a different topic, but Jess, you really inspired me clearly. And I love what Jess just said about fundraising. And I think that people like to make it look like fundraising is really, really easy. And it's not. And so I would love, I feel as a woman investor, I feel this personal responsibility to push this idea of women taking more risk with their capital forward. Women are afraid to take risk with their capital. This is something I've experienced. There's a lot of data around it. And I would like to, we have a bunch of risk takers up here. So I would like you guys to talk about risk, talk about fundraising. What has your experience been fundraising for your companies? And how would you encourage all of the women out there and all of the men to encourage the women in their lives to take risk with their capital? Or just take risks.
Yes, take risks. Does anybody want to take this?
Go ahead.
So you got to go for it. You have to believe in yourself. After selling my first company, I had a bit of a windfall and didn't really know how to manage that. So fast forward, starting Tokidoki, incubated in the walls of a second business. But at that point, I decided to go for it. And I basically invested the last of my life savings into Tokidoki. That's how much I believed in it. And I knew that we were going to be a global brand. And I had friends that looked at me like, are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? And today, we still have the same vision. So my suggestion is invest in yourself and invest in your vision.
That's great advice.
So I'm a first-time founder, and it was terrifying to think about starting a company. I have 2 small kids. My husband's a writer, so I like to say he had the high beta job in our marriage, and he didn't know what that meant. And, and I was like, my salary pays the mortgage, it pays preschool tuition, like I can't give that up and start something. And it took me, but we had this idea, and I was obsessed with the idea, and it wouldn't leave me alone, and it wouldn't go away. But it took me several months to realize, this wasn't as big a risk as I thought it was, and that I'm ultimately employable. If nothing happened from this, I could go out and get a job and, wouldn't make my family homeless. But, that was what was in my head, and it took a long time for me to get past that to then start it and do all the things that we've done since.
Honestly, this business was my Hail Mary. I was a professional ballet dancer whose body was falling apart, so I essentially lost my only means of earning money. Was rejected from business school and thought, well, if I started a business, then I'd have something to write about when I reapplied. Went to a startup weekend, bought the URL, set an egg timer, bought carbon38.com because it was $1.99 on GoDaddy, and started building actually just an animated wireframe and pretended like I was going through a demo at pitch day 54 hours later, and we ended up winning, and that was 6.5 years ago. So thank God that worked out.
I guess every 5 years of my life, I always changed industry, and I think of myself as risk averse, but actually, I think I have always embraced risk, some level of risk, and I feel like the overriding philosophy that I've taken to each change has been not necessarily what will feel worse, trying and failing, or being on my deathbed and regretting that I never tried at all. And so for me, I was in a dream job at Disney, 36, pregnant with my second kid, terrified. My husband and I are not trust fund kids. We are still stressed about credit card bills and rent and childcare. And everyone thought I was insane to make the leap and start this business. And we're still fairly early, we're 1.5 years old. But as the great poet Taylor Swift once said, being fearless is not the absence of fear, it's being terrified and making the jump anyway. And made the jump.
That is fantastic. So we have some big companies up here. I'd love you each to give a little bit, just sort of talk about the size of your business in whichever way you feel comfortable. Again, don't tweet financials, et cetera. But I assume you guys won't share too many financials. So tell us, size-wise, how big are you? And then in terms of scaling a company, how do you think about profitability versus growth? How do you just think about that when you're growing your business? Pooneh, do you want to start?
How do I?
She's like, no, not at all. Joanna.
Well, profitability, I think, is important. You have to keep that in mind because that's what's appealing. You want to be, that sounds ridiculous. You want to be profitable.
Think that, but then you have Uber and Lyft and all of these non-profitable.
You also have to pay attention to your top line growth. I mean, it's really a balancing act. But I don't know what else to say about that right now.
So where we are as a company, we have about 10 people on our team. We're about 1.5 years in. We raised a seed round last year. And we partner with 80 vintage boutiques across the country in about 12 cities. And right now, it's extremely challenging. We're building a two-sided marketplace. It depends on scale. And it feels like you're flying a fighter jet while building the parts of the plane. And it's terrifying. So knowing what parts of the plane can still be paper and other parts, like the engine, that can't be, and you have to actually pull it together and create a working product. So I think understanding where you have to make those trade-offs. Having the right people is super important. I think a lot of people may think that they want to be part of an early stage startup, and part of a company that demands a lot of scale, but I do think it takes a really specific type of person, and I think it's important to be really honest with yourself about whether or not you want to embrace that kind of risk and environment. We tend to hire, especially in our early stage, we like extreme doers, extreme magic makers, people who can make things happen. Obviously, we have to have some general expertise and something that we're looking for, but extremely action-oriented. And in terms of profitability and growth, I think right now we're mostly focused on growth, but especially in what's happened in the venture landscape, I do think that there's been a lot of our investors currently in our company and people who we're in conversation with, rightly so, the focus is on, we understand that you're not profitable today, but is there a path towards profitability? And I definitely think as responsible business owners and builders that you have to believe that, and that the economics are going to make sense. Otherwise, that there may not be a business there. So I do think that you have to believe that you will achieve profitability.
I have something I can add to what I messed up earlier.
Go for it, Pooneh.
So, as we're growing, we're self-financed as a company. We're in our 15th year. We have been really fortunate that we have had a lot of people approach us. They want to give us money, but it's not the right time for us right now. Eventually, it might be. But in terms of the profitability and the top line growth, you have to be careful and you have to be strategic and understand what's coming down the pipeline, because if you have a massive net profit, you're going to have a massive tax bill. So you have to keep that in mind. The following, you're going to have to cover that. And then, so there's a lot of strategy involved, because you want to understand, well, where are we going to be? Where can we deploy this money and squeeze the most value out of every dollar, put it in the right place strategically? In which segment of which business we want to push, where we can get the most value out of it.
Yeah, and you deal with such different problems than venture-funded, venture-backed companies.
Right.
So that's really fascinating. What about you want to go ahead, Katie?
Sure. I think in the early days.
First of all, how big are you?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that.
It's big.
It's big. Yeah, it's big. It's big. We have a nice big company.
Yeah.
It's like threading an elephant through the eye of a needle, honestly, every day. We've been able to grow a big company in the last 6 years. And in the initial, the first 3, it was really challenging to raise money because we were apparel, multi-brand. We had pretty low margins, and we had this sales force of women that were selling on our behalf. So we didn't really have unit economics that were translatable for venture. So raised our first $11 million over the course of 3 years in $25,000 to $50,000 checks. So it was a slog, but essentially
this is a story we're hearing more and more today, and it's more of the realistic perspective, I think, in terms of funding, not only for women, it's just in terms of the funding landscape right now.
But I think what it did, it created a discipline, because essentially our open to buy was our bank balance. So I would take that and we'd go out and we'd buy the materials from our vendors, and that was how much we had to sell. And so it just kept this, honestly, I didn't know what a P&L was until about 3 years ago. It's so embarrassing, but it's the truth. But I understood what we needed to do in sales. I knew that, in September 2014, I had to bring in 70 buyers every single day, spending $250, that my contribution margin had to be at 42 points, and that at the end of the day, this is what I'd be banking. I just kind of always knew that. And then we took on our Series A 2 years ago. Gosh, I can't even remember anymore. Yeah, 2 years ago. And a huge amount of capital came in at once, along with it, this mandate for growth. And it was a totally different way of running the business, because it goes from this gut instinct. I could wrap my arms around the business. I could pick up a customer service call. I could go to the warehouse and figure out where everything was. I knew where everything was hidden. And the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then we took on a ton of capital, brought in a ton of people and experts, who are amazing. And suddenly you lose sight of where your initial your initial unit economics is. And that was a scary adjustment period in the first 9 months of taking on that capital. And now, with dashboards and all that kind of stuff, you know where it should be. And in that period as well, we were able to go from profit on second order to profit on first order on a blended CAC basis. And I think in today's world, it's super important. If you're not making money on your first order, I don't think you have a business. At least in a consumer, quick purchase piece. Maybe if you're buying mattresses. I don't know. But I think that if you're not profitable on that first pair of leggings, then you're dead in the water. And I think it's really important today to be less reliant on digital spend and finding new ways of bringing that customer in the door. And lucky for us, we had that from the beginning.
So how big are you?
We're a $100 million business. Yeah, it's big.
Woo!
Just don't tell anyone, please. My head of PR will be so mad at me. I'm sorry.
Joanna, how's everything going for you? What's the latest?
Yeah, things are great. So, I think it's an interesting question. I think when you're starting, it's obviously all about revenue, and it's all about showing traction and showing that you have customers and that those customers are coming back, and that there's a business there. And then I think as you mature, it is about continuing to grow, but also really, having a handle on those unit economics and having a handle on the unit economics at the unit level and at the market level, and really understanding contribution, break even, and how that, how fast you get there in a city. And it's exciting when you get to that point, because everyone in the team starts to rally around that and starts to understand that. And so you are making, you're still, I think, striving for growth, but with the understanding that growth is leading to that path to profitability. I think times are changing. I have a good friend who's a man, who is an entrepreneur that has,
It's allowed, guys. It's allowed.
But he's a serial entrepreneur, and he once said to me, he said, "You know what? EBITDA is like a virus. Once you have it, you can never get rid of it." And I just, that's always kind of stuck with me. And that's a virus that I would like to catch, I think.
Oh, God. While you're chatting, will you share with us what you're doing with the foster care system?
Yeah, so our business has really changed. When we first started, the business was really about helping families like mine get kids where they need to go. We really started this because I was trying to get my son to karate on Thursday at 3 o'clock as a full-time working mom, and was really challenged to do that. Over the last couple of years, what we've realized is that the solution that we built for our kids and for families like us is actually also a really great solution for schools, school districts, and county governments who are also really struggling with transportation. School districts spend $25 billion a year on transportation, and yet only a third of our kids take a bus to school. There are, in particular, what Jesse's referring to, there are federal mandates for foster youth. These kids move around a whole lot, but there are federal mandates to keep them at their school of origin so that no matter where they might be in a home placement, they can go to their same school and maintain school stability. Every time you change schools, you lose 4 to 6 months of learning, and it's no surprise that the foster graduation rate can be in the 20s. And so we now partner with over 200 schools and districts, but also 14 counties, and we provide transportation to school for foster youth. And so that's been a huge change to our business. We also work with school districts on students with special needs and homeless students. It's been a huge change to our business, and frankly, a huge change to our unit economics, but it's been a really exciting change of what we do our mission has always been to help make families' lives easier, and now it's really about helping get all kids to their highest potential, which has been really exciting.
Cool. So cool. So we have a couple fashion businesses up here, and you all have a really unique look at the market. I'm just curious, how do you differentiate yourself in this space? You each have a very unique way. Pooneh, maybe you can start with the IP and what that looks like.
So I brought a prop with me just to show this colorful world of Tokidoki. We're a very unique company in that we're not just a fashion brand. We have products, everything. We do everything from collectible vinyls to handbags, to cosmetics, cell phone accessories. We've done slot machines. We have wine. I mean, Tokidoki is really a dynamic brand in that we can put the artwork on any medium. We're actually now starting to get into animation. So it's a really fun, colorful world, and it's the Tokidoki. We refer to it as the Tokidoki universe. And Simone Legno, who is my business partner, is the artist that creates all of the designs. He's extremely prolific, and it's just fun. You know, we're growing, and we have opportunities in all these different industry segments, and we're having a good time. Although we're working hard. It's a lot of hard work.
It's always hard work.
Did I answer the question? I don't even know.
I think so.
Okay.
How's thrilling?
So we're very mission driven. We're obviously a business, but we are very mission driven. So we're delighted that this is a moment where vintage and secondhand has really taken hold of mainstream imagination and dollars, and it's becoming a more popular way to shop. For us, that's a wonderful thing because the clothing industry does drive a lot of natural resource usage and other types of pollution, and so we're delighted by that. And all rising tides lift all boats. In terms of the way that we differentiate from some of our competitors in the space, first on the business model on the back end, we actually don't warehouse clothing. We don't produce clothing. We are working with existing vintage retailers and boutiques across the country to help them go online. So we're really a tech platform. And on the front end, we're offering a fairly wide range of clothing at every size and at every price point. So it's very accessible vintage for everybody. And that's what we're very excited to offer.
Oh, you are the third fashion company on this panel.
God, there's so many of us. I know.
But you're fashionable.
We just shop all day. Look, we have a very data-driven approach to a segment of the market. So we've worked with over 260 brands. We launch 1,200 styles a month across 28 brands every single month. So it's like blowing open the doors for new data to understand what our customer is gravitating towards. And then we mine that and we apply it to our own label where we have a higher margin. And then the cycle continues because we use our wholesale vendors and the partners there to create exciting, just exciting assortment and new, fresh assortments, whether that's like footwear, or we launched jewelry last quarter, skincare. We try to merchandise for her whole day because we're very focused essentially on this boss. 60% of our customers are C-suite executives or entrepreneurs. And so we want to take her through her whole day. We started with this idea of getting her ready for the gym because that first hour of working out is where you build your prefrontal cortex, where you monitor your cortisol response, and essentially where you become a leader. And so then how do we take her through her day? Whether that's with layers, because you raise the temperature in an office 2 degrees, women have 20% more productivity. So we'll bring your thermostat with you with, leather jackets and things that can take you through your day, or, silky separates that pack easily, or a business suit that, essentially I can run here in and throw in the machine after this and no one will know the difference. We're essentially just following the consumer. That's who drives me every day. I've become her now that I'm an executive myself. I've been serving her for the last 13 years as her trainer initially, and now as selling stuff to her. So we essentially have this bird's eye view of what this specific woman needs, and we can deliver it to her.
That's great. Well, I've been looking at zero for a minute, but I do, while we're up here, I thought instead of ending with advice, I would like everyone to go down and tell us what you need. What do you need? Like, we have this great group of incredible people out here. What are you looking for? Are you hiring? What do you need right now? Pooneh, do you want to go? She's like, I was ready for the advice.
I need astute advice on scaling a global brand. That's what I need right now.
So advisors.
I resonated with some of the earlier panels about more shoulders and forums for open and honest conversation. Also, just a plug for, we'll also need lots of voters this November.
Woohoo!
We need introductions to school districts, but I do have really good advice that ties to you. Can I tell my story?
Sure.
So something that somebody said in the VC panel, and I don't remember who said it, but you were talking about monthly updates and that women don't give them. So Jessie was one of our very first checks in, like 5+ years ago, and then she never heard from me for like 2 years, and I don't remember what it was, but I called her like for something. And we were talking about it, and she was like, "Where have you been? I have no idea what's going on in your business. I have no idea what's happening. I know nothing about you." And it just, like, I was like, oh my God, she's totally right. And so I started doing a quarterly update email for friends and family, friendlies, I call them. So it's friends and family, and it's every investor that ever said no to me. So it's a really, really long list at this point. But I send it out quarterly, and actually, like, the lead investor in our Series B came from that email.
Wow.
So send those emails.
Wow, that's great.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, honestly, I need a manifestation coach after the last. So, any recommendations? Be great. Crystal healer too, never hurts. Okay. And an esthetician. That actually might be the most important. So yeah, looking for recommendations.
We at Halogen, we just launched a competition for coronavirus. We're investing $100,000 into the best sanitation device. No, we did. It's like we launched last week, but we're getting all sorts of things. So it's basically any kind of sanitation device for businesses. We're calling it a sanitation bomb, if you will, is the competition. So send us submissions. We're seeing all sorts of cool things, from robots that have UV light coming off of them. Just send us submissions. So that's what we're looking for right now.